Welcome back to Light Talk, where the paranormal and the supernatural is a part of our daily lives. If you have a story you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423@gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons down below. Don't forget to visit my website at www.lighttalkwithdana.com to see what's coming up and see how you can get your own private card reading and photo reads. So let's get started on our show today. I'm so excited to get moving. So let's get started. So welcome to the show, and I'll hand the mic over to you.
Hey, my name is Jeroen. I am a full-time quantum healing hypnosis technique practitioner. It's a form of past life regression that was developed by the famed Dolores Cannon. You might have heard her name. My name sounds a little weird because I was born in the Netherlands, and that's where I lived until 2007. And then I moved to Los Angeles, which is where I'm now based. I've been doing this work for 19 years, both individual QHT past life regression sessions, but also I do group sessions, both online and in person at different spiritual centers around Los Angeles. I'm really stoked to be here. I love talking about all the experiences I've had with my clients. If you're familiar with Dolores Cannon, you have kind of an idea of the kind of direction that we're going to go into. There's all kinds of subject tied in with this work that Dolores Cannon did. There's like past lives, could be Earth lives, historical lives, could be lives as aliens, light beings, creator beings, other non-human forms. It goes all over the place. And I really love doing this work because I never really fit in when I was growing up in the Netherlands. I did not recognize anything in the world that kind of felt like myself, except for when I was in nature. I was in a normal sort of like white middle class environment in the Netherlands, a tiny village of 3,500 people. I am gay and genderqueer, and there was nothing around me that reflected back to me that I was normal. So I was just looking around for things that felt more like me, and that took me to like the forest. I would go on walks with my parents, and I kind of knew that there was life on different dimensions. And so I was always looking for like little chairs and tables in the hollows of trees, looking for the fairies and the gnomes. I just like, where are my people? Where are these like other like non-physical people? So, but I never saw anything. Until I had an experience when I was about 8 years old. My mom was a librarian at the time, and she would bring home books. It was a small library, and I had read everything there is to read for kids. And then I just started like sneaking her books off her nightstand. And one night, I found a book by Nelson Monroe of the Monroe Institute about out-of-body experiences. And little 8-year-old me was fascinated. I started reading this book, and it really resonated with me. It was stuff that I didn't know that I knew, or that sounded so true to me. It really resonated. And that was the first time that I found proof of life being more consciousness oriented rather than sort of carbon based oriented, which is how we're typically being raised on this planet. And so that was a really like formative experience for me. And then there was a whole bunch of nothing until when was this? I had a really difficult spiritual awakening back in the late 90s. Basically, my consciousness imploded, or my sense of self imploded, as a result of going through the Landmark program. And looking back at it, I had to like raise myself from the ground up. Like my ego structure was really fragile before because of, I felt so alien and like I didn't belong. And so I was able to, with the help of like spiritual healers and therapy and all kinds of self-help, energy work, breath work, somatic work, cathartic experiences, like I've done almost everything that there is to do, to put the pieces back together of my authentic self, not a self that was based on the programming and the messages that we encounter when we start life on this planet, but from an authentic, self-motivated perspective. So having done that for so many years, I really enjoyed seeing the magical stuff that would come in, not just working on myself, but also when I started doing energy work, working with other people and seeing how every soul really has their own unique trajectory. It's super diverse and it's really fascinating, the kind of like resources that I saw people pull in as they were, going through their healing process. Like people would go into past lives, or really somatic, like physical stuff would happen. I loved it. I loved seeing the body like emote and purge in very authentic ways. And this is all I wanted to do. I wanted to help other people connect to their soul and live a life that was more authentic and connected to their true self. The paradigm that I work from is that source is everything, and we are part of it. We are all a part of like God, source, goddess, creator, whatever it is, sort of extended in this physical body, or as one of my favorites used to say, RuPaul says, we're all playing God, we're all God playing dress up. I thought it was such a great quote. And this is what I want to do for myself, because as I went through my journey of recovering my true self, I found that there was magical feelings there and so much joy, and it also clicked me into my purpose. I found that the more I did the things that I really love to do, the more I felt like I was at home on the planet. I could claim my spot here in the world, doing the work that I do. I love serving humanity or the collective by helping people to recover their own authenticity. So that is kind of a little bit about my journey and why I love doing this work so much. So we're here to hear about some fun experiences. I'm just trying to like see what comes up as what I want to talk about first. So usually a great introduction is kind of validating that this work really taps into like lived experience. It's not just like make believe or people kind of confabulating stuff. I am from the Netherlands. It's a very cerebral and rational culture. And so even when I started doing this work, this QHHT, past life regression, I was still kind of one leg in, one leg out. I didn't know if people were making it up. And so I was so lucky that I have had many experiences where a client would go into a lifetime that was an earth life, an historical life that was documented in some way or another. So what that meant is that we could go and like verify or fact check the experience. So the biggest case that I've been part of has been made into a book. It is called The Boy Who Knew Too Much by my client, Kathy Bird. This is her son in her current lifetime, little Christian. He's now like 18 years old, so not so little anymore. But what was going on with this case is that Kathy Bird, the author, she was from a Christian background, and she had a child, 2 years old, started talking to her about that he used to be a tall German baseball player. And she was from a Christian background, had no context for reincarnation or past life regression, so she was just like doing it off as a kid with a lively imagination. But he expressed interest in baseball. He had also told her that she used to be his mom in that past life. I mean, he didn't call it the past life. He just said, you used to be my mom before. And then he remembered being up on a cloud and seeing her and choosing her again as his mom. And kind of a sidebar to this is a very common experience that we seem to be going through different lifetimes in a soul family, and that we try out different relationships to just learn different things, to give each other the opportunity to learn different aspects of like what it's like to being in a human body. In this case, they came back in the same configuration, mother and son. So she remembered taking him to, she's from Los Angeles here, and she took him to the baseball stadium, the Dodger Stadium. And there was a large poster of Babe Ruth on the wall. Now, if you're like me, I'm the kind of gay that is not into sports, so I thought Babe Ruth was a candy bar, but apparently it's a legendary American baseball player. And so little Christian had a total meltdown. He was pointing at that poster, saying stuff like, that guy's really bad. We had a big fight. He's a bad, mean guy, to the point where he needed to be removed from the area because he was just like having a meltdown. So stuff like that would happen that kind of let Kathy know that there was more going on than just this vivid imagination. And she turned towards her pastor first. This was like her logical first step of like trying to find out what's happening. And she was suggested to have him do an exorcism. It's kind of extreme. So she was like, I'm not going to subject my kid to that. I'm going to look for like second opinions.
Right.
Yes. And so she reached out to the Virginia University. There was like a consciousness studies or department, and there was somebody by the name of Tucker who had done lots of research into kids talking about their past lives. So that kind of opened her up into this kind of information. And then one of her close friends had already done a session with me, and she kind of like nudged her and say, "Hey, go see this Dutch guy over in Eagle Rock, which is where I lived at the time. He's a past life regressionist, and you might get more, information to know what's going on." So she walks into my office, and there was an immediate connection. We're both Geminis, and we were like, talking and laughing. And I told her what I tell all my clients, like, I'm not an authority over your consciousness. I'm just like you, another human being. I leave it up to your higher self to provide you with the most appropriate healing experiences. And that's what the technique does. So we went into the session, and it became clear pretty quick that she was telling me about a lifetime of Christina Garrick, Lou Gehrig's mom. We found ourselves in a working class environment on the East Coast in the 1930s. And she had very detailed recall of her lifetime. I could ask her anything. So she was telling me about the dress that she was wearing, the patterns in the area rug, her little like chubby dog, a bird cage that was covered over. Even at the dinner table, she knew her kids' like German nicknames. She was born in Germany and had come over, on a boat, immigrated here. And, I thought it was just so, kind of mind blowing, and I was wondering, like, I don't know this lady. I mean, she seems very nice, like, but is she just here to like boost her ego, or like it's just like a dog and pony show? I don't know if she was making it up. Is this a hoax? So I thought, what can I do to kind of check if this is a valid experience? So I would try to think of like really minute, trivial details in her environment that she was exploring that I could ask about that she wouldn't have thought to research, like normal day-to-day life things, from a different time and a different place. So I would ask her about, so I lead people through important days in different lifetimes. And one of those days we found her walking over like a grassy parking space, parking lot to the Yankee Stadium to see her son play for the first time. And so here I go thinking, like, what can I ask her? So I'd ask her about what she was wearing. But then I asked her, like, you're going to see the game. Are you having any snacks? She goes, yes, she goes, it's like warm nuts. And I'm thinking, is this like burnt peanuts or something? That's what I'm used to. But she goes, no, this is like warm chestnuts. And she is a Southern California woman. She lived in Agoura Hills and had never even seen a chestnut. So that was like remarkable. And then I asked her, like, are you drinking anything? And she goes, yes, we're having a cola. And like, I'm thinking, like, what American-born person would refer to a Coke as a cola? So this can happen in regressions, that people even take on a different vernacular, even start speaking completely different, like extinct languages. That's also possible. And here, Kathy was like bringing in the American of the 1930s and 40s at the time. So, and then I asked her about like the scoreboard, because I know right now, even though I never been to a game, that it's like the score is kept by like digital, like the scoreboard. But she explained that it was done like with like wooden painted like little pads, yeah, with numbers on it, and they would have to flip them over manually. They were like
Oh,
on a ring.
okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
kind of like a notepad where you just flip the
exactly.
paper over.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah.
and so she was describing those details. I'm trying to like ask her about things that she couldn't have researched prior to coming in. And so she leaves the session, we wrap it up, and she goes. And then the next day, I'm like driving on the freeway, and I get a call, and she's completely mind blown. She has been researching the information that she came up with, and everything to the detail was the way that she saw it to be during her regression. So that was really remarkable. She came in two more times, and another remarkable thing happened. We would go back to explore the same lifetime. I've worked with over 3,000 people, and I've never had that happen
Huh.
again. Yeah, somebody that came in again, going back to the same lifetime. We would explore like different periods of it. I remember the second time, I think we explored her youth in Germany, and then coming over the boat on the boat. And then the third session, we explored like the latter part of her life when she died and what happened before. And so a part of the work that we do is not just regression, where it's fun to find out what your soul's been up to, but the main part of it is really calling forth the subconscious mind, we call it, or the higher self or the soul, and ask it for like what this means for the current lifetime, and to get clarity and answers and healing for stuff that's going on in a person's life right now. So I asked her higher self, like, why are we doing this? Why do we have to go back to the same lifetime? I mean, it's fascinating, but why? And so it explained that she was to mine the regression experience for verifiable details or details that could be fact checked, that she would be writing a book about this, and that the book would be accessible to a larger demographic of people that normally wouldn't be interested in any kind of spiritual content. But because this would have the subject of baseball, involved, but also this level of verifiability, more people would be sort of prompted to think about their lifetime as, or their soul being eternal, rather than, a one and done in this lifetime. That it would allow more people sort of to open up to a broader viewpoint to this life. And she
Yeah.
did. She entered the House writing contest and won it. So her book was published, and it's not quite in production. It's been taken into option by Halle Berry's production company. So we're hoping that this is going to be a movie inspiring way more people, like a bigger amount of people, to be inspired to think about themselves as eternal beings being in a human body right now. It's
Yeah.
fascinating. So
It is.
this was really validating for me, like to know, to really figure out that people really go into a lived experience, no matter how mundane it might seem or nonsensical. And for her as well, that she really lived that life. I mean, it was stuff that she couldn't have thought of. When you read a book, you can read how it blows her mind.
Wow. That
Yeah.
is really crazy. Yeah, I've only been through one past life setting or sitting, and it was just a real quick one, but just in that two lifetimes that I kind of saw, I just wow. That's just crazy.
Did you go into like Earth lives or somewhere else?
They were both Earth lives. The previous we went into my previous life, and it was like in the 1800s, and I was hung in that one. But it was kind of I felt my head drop and everything once I was hung. I saw the scenery. I heard the men behind me that was hanging me. I heard them talking in the background behind me, and um, like I say, it was just a big old field out in front of me where I was seeing, and I
Wow.
was in a tree.
Oh my God.
They hung me in a tree.
Was it like in the South? Was it a lynching or?
Um, I didn't get a feel of where it was at, but I've always been intrigued with the show Little House on the Prairie.
Oh, yes.
I've always been intrigued. And it was, I almost feel like one of the trees that they have in the show was like the tree I was hung in.
Wow.
And the scenery was also kind of the same. It was like if you were looking out towards the prairie, kind of, it was just that tall grass kind of scene that I have in my head
Wow.
and being in the tree. Yeah.
It was death with a view.
Yeah.
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 Definitely.
Yeah. Do you
Definitely.
remember if you were male or female?
I was male. I remember when I first started, I was walking into a town, and it was in the like the 1800s.
Right.
So when I walked into town, it was like the three, four stores on each side of the street kind of thing.
Yes.
Um, then the next thing I pictured, I was in the general store picking up a rifle. So I had just bought a rifle. And then I was walking out of town. And then the next scene was me in the tree, hearing the guys behind me, and then my head fell
Okay.
down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't.
Um,
Oh, go ahead.
I was doing some asking and all, and it sounds like my wife was killed by like my brother or something like that. So I killed him, and that's why I was hung.
Wow.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah.
It was crazy. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. And then the life before that, I was a pirate. So
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah.
kind of, he wasn't very happy. I
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
very happy in that one. I took my own life on that one.
Oh God. Yes.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I find it really fascinating. Like I've been doing this for quite long now, and so it's really shifted my sense of identity. I used to be more of like I'm a human now. I'm just in this body doing this, but having so many experiences, not just with my clients, but also in my own life. Like I really identify more as like an eternal spark kind of, and I'm here temporarily and making the best of it and then moving on to different adventures. Because I see this over and over again, like in all sessions that people have like very similar experience as they go through the death experience. Nobody it's not a big deal for anybody. Like the actual leaving the body is not painful or difficult. I mean, what can lead up to it, of course, can be violent and difficult. But dying itself, when I ask people what it feels like, they're laying on my table, and then I most of the time see them have this big sigh of relief, and they go, like, "Oh, it feels so good. I feel so free. It's such a relief to be out of that like tiny little body." And then, I ask them, "Where are you now?" And they say, they could say like I'm in space, or I'm in like this velvet void, or I am with source, I am with, you know, I know these beings. I don't know where I know them from, but I know them. They might be with guides or like loved ones from other lifetimes. There is no such thing as hell. I'm sorry to tell you, people that are stuck in like a religious sort of context. I mean, I never believed in it, but there is no such thing as hell. We are all part of God, and we live in a benevolent universe. And yeah, we're all light. And we design our lives before we go in. I've had this experience so many times where people find themselves in a live review. It might be by themselves or with their guides or a council that's there in the afterlife, and they kind of assess what they've learned. And there is no right or wrong. It's not like people are judged. There is no like kind of like a judging power that says, you've been bad and now we're going to stick it to you. Like karma is not punitive, but it's more about getting a well-rounded experience. And if people are raised in difficult circumstances and it's not possible to live a life that is more heart-centered or more compassionate, because that is kind of the goal for, at some point in a soul's development, that is what is desired. Then you just go in and do it again, some other lifetime. And I've even had people like describe that they would just reset their life. They would go back into the same exact life and do it again with the learning that they had having done it before. And that was
Really?
actually
I haven't heard of that one.
same. Like this only happened maybe like a year ago, when that first came up. And this is, just when you kind of know what the rules are, if there is any, if there are any rules, and then something like this walks along, like just doing the life again, it's fascinating. Yeah.
Wow. So have you talked to that person again? Because
I've
it's
not,
like
no, no.
that's really interesting. I would like to hear the outcome of that one.
I like how they felt afterwards, you mean?
Well, yeah, well, like being in the same lifetime twice. I mean, how that's interesting to me.
Yeah, it was like the life that they're in currently, it didn't pan out well the first time, or it didn't learn what they were supposed to learn. So they kind of got like a class or some tutoring afterwards, and then, opted into the same lifetime again. And this might sound really like impossible, but from the perspective of the soul, there's no such thing as time or space. It's just like all happening in the now. So really, when we, what we call past lives, they're really kind of parallel lives, or it's all happening right now. You know, my, how my human mind tries to like approximate that understanding is that we're all that our oversoul is like more or less individuated like source energy, and it decides to split off into all of these different experiences that all happen at the same time. So sometimes you might find, as a practitioner, you might find that a person goes into a lifetime that overlaps with the current lifetime. And so this is kind of like, a soulmate that is present on the planet right now, but in a different location. I've had that experience myself as well. And, when people hear the word soulmate, they think, oh my God, we have to meet and like, pick up our banjos and ride into the sunset and live happily ever after. But that's not at all, what the life could be slated for. There could just be another part of your soul that could be alive on the planet that you're never meant to meet. It can happen like that.
So do
Um,
you think that's what a soul mate is like a the other half of you or so?
I mean, when you put it in like a word like other half of you, it might sound like we're missing that part and we need to like, find it or something. But that's not what it is. That's not what it is.
Okay.
Soulmate just means like another part of your oversoul, like this big, magnificent part of source, that decided to split off into another human body that's alive on the planet right now. Um, I don't I don't believe in this sort of fairy tale behind like soulmates or twin flames. I think there are people that are part of our soul and that we are meant to meet, and they can trigger, a growth process in us. And it doesn't always mean, or most of the time to me, it doesn't mean that we have to be with them. A lot of people, see this twin flame thing as like that you have to like make them be in a relationship with you and that you have to change yourself or work hard. It's quite the opposite. Twin flames, when that happens, when people find these like intense connections with somebody where they can even hear their thoughts or know what they're feeling, um, this is really to trigger self-love, instead of being dependent on this other person giving you the expansion, the magic, and the worthiness that we are meant to explore in our own life. So usually when the process or the connection goes awry or somebody distances themselves, then there's all these feelings that are coming up, and these feelings are meant to trigger a person to get on the path of loving themselves and making their own lives as magical and joyful as that connection with the twin flame felt like. This is what I hear over and over again, and it matches like how my own life has been going. I used to be very codependent and always be attracted to the guys that were emotionally unavailable, because then I could do what I had learned about love, which is I needed to work to make myself deserving of it. So what I did was find like the broken people and the people that didn't want to, work on themselves, and I would just like try to do it for them. It's just so fucked up. But that's what I knew how to be in a relationship. That's what I thought love was. And that's not what it is. The higher
Right.
self, in I would say every session, always emphasizes that we're here to love ourselves, because when we love ourselves, we're making ourselves available to our own divinity or our own sourceness. And when I first heard about that concept of loving yourself, I thought I had to like make myself be better. You know, there was so much wrong with me. I needed to like change all those parts of myself and kind of fit into what I thought like a higher self would like, you know, feel like or be like, you know, some kind of like
Right.
messed up idea about, you know, worthiness. And that was outside of myself. It's quite the opposite. You know, it's about loving all the parts of us that we were taught were not good enough, that we had to closet or demonize or push away. I mean, when you think about it, this world, and I'm talking about our human, you know, our human world here, not nature or the earth, um, it's very, it's like a trauma-based experience that pushes us into survival. And what that means is that we, you know, we're pushed out of our bodies when we as kids, we experience violence, be it physical, sexual, or emotional violence. And that doesn't even have to look like people giving you explicit messages that you're not good enough. It can be as simple as like for myself, to not recognize yourself in your parents and your parents not knowing how to really be present with you as a unique expression of source rather than the predefined sort of constructs that they had to go through to try and survive on the planet. And then kind of like pushing that onto you, thinking, well, we got to make sure that he survives as well on the planet by fitting him into like whatever role models, whatever messages about like what is right and what is wrong was around. Like
Right.
being gay and genderqueer, that definitely didn't fit that mold. I grew up in the 70s, and then you know, I just knew about like being like white and male and masculine and being religious and not having any feelings. I'm a redhead, is barely you can barely see it, but that was also weird. I was being teased with it. And then having this kind of like predisposition of thinking that you know life is consciousness based versus carbon based and recognizing myself and my environment. So I shut all those parts down. I wasn't good enough. I didn't feel like I belonged. And again, you know, through my spiritual awakening or the challenging experiences I've had, I was able to recover that. And with that came the sense of joy and magic and knowing that I'm part of source just as everybody else is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I go
Yeah.
off on a tangent?
Oh no, you're
No,
great. No, this is awesome. This is awesome. No, I was like, I kind of agree with you though with the schooling. Um, I feel the same way as that to me, it feels like the schools are putting all the kids into a mold where they have to be a certain way, think a certain way, and all of this. And I hear so many of the young kids that I work with, and even my own son has talked about why don't they have classes on things that we want to do?
exactly. Yeah.
You know, why is it so you have to do this class or you have to do this class or this class? You know, why can't they be themselves and learn and find out what they want to be when they grow up, not what they want you to be, you
Yeah,
know?
I see that as really damaging, like our educational system, because really the messaging there is whatever is already alive and passionate within you is not being validated or acknowledged or explored. And instead, we have to put our mind onto like the dry, you know, whatever you need to do to survive in the world, you know?
Right.
Um, it's kind of like it's more of the same stuff, and I don't see it as very helpful. I
Mm-mm.
mean, here in Los Angeles, there are some schools, some of my friends that have kids, they've sent their kids to like alternative schools where learning is done through art, through nature. And it's kind of like they help kids to explore their interests. And they help them with like social development and having feelings and expression. And when I see these kids are now like teens and young adults, it's really beautiful how much more confident they are in their ability to create an authentic life. I mean, they're artists, they're activists, people that really are connected to their innate sense of self. They don't have to go through this whole journey that I had to go through of like recovering all these parts of myself. Yeah.
Yeah.
And and if people get worried about, but how are they going to learn math or reading? I mean, it's going to come if they want to explore a subject that is really of interest to them. They're going to want to do the things that are necessary so they can absorb all that, be it math or reading or other things that they
Right.
need to develop. Yeah, to be able
Right.
to do the things that you want to do. To me, that is a way. It's a more sort of self-honoring way of education or learning things.
Yeah. Maybe getting in like the basics, learning how to read, write, arithmetic, that
Yeah,
that
the
kind of
simple
thing. But
stuff.
then after that, let the kids explore and see what they want to do for their lifetime.
And
They have a
also,
lot more better,
yeah,
happier employees.
I believe so. And also to be more honoring to people that do not fit like this very limited mold of like book learning, I myself, I'm an experiential learner. I do way better when I'm out in nature, out and about, like feeling things more tangible. I'm not a book learner per se. And then there's people that are, neurodivergent or on the spectrum. They learn in very different things and they have very different interests in things. So why not accommodate, have a system that accommodates everybody's personal style, to create a sense of like that it's a good thing that people are different and that
Yeah.
everybody brings in their own qualities and their own like, I mean, for me, like diversity is so inspiring because you see people find different solutions and have very different ways of thinking. I mean, it's so inspiring, like to be confronted with your own kind of groove of like doing things and to be enlightened by that. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I
I
mean,
have another person you might want to talk to be on her podcast. So we'll talk afterwards. But
okay, great.
on this topic. No, so I want to go back a little bit. You spoke a little bit of your feelings as there is no hell. So I have seen or talked to other people that say that they've been there and they've also, the one has been both places, heaven and hell. So what is your outtake on that?
So in my experience, the only time that I have experienced like hell with a client, it was self-imposed. She explained a past life where she was involved in like the dark arts. She would use the magic that was known at the time to like cause harm. She was kind of like the what would you call that? Like I only know like the Spanish like bruja. She's like a kind of a witch doctor. I don't see witch as a bad word, but like somebody that would create like potions or like charms to harm other people, and she got paid for that. And so she died in that lifetime knowing what she had done, and she felt very bad about it. And she thought, based on the religion at the time, that she was going to go to hell. And so we found her in this dark place where she was chained up and feeling bad. And then we found out that it was because she was judging herself. And so we worked on self forgiveness, and then these chains would leave, and she would go into the light. Having said that, I remember watching another podcast about near death experiences, and somebody went to a place that looked like hell. And what I remember taking away from that is that they were faced with like a lower level of just consciousness. Like it was not like the black and white of heaven or hell. It was just like souls on a different developmental path. When we talk about hell, it's more from a context of like punitive and that you're being punished. That I've never encountered. Also not in like watching other podcasts where people go to a place that looks very much like it, where like she remembers seeing their being kind of being distorted or like looking weird, not not healthy looking, or
Right.
um, and that was my understanding. So, I don't have the gospel, this is just my experience, but it aligns with what I believe about life, that life is always benevolent and it's for us, and that the challenging experiences that we experience here on earth are opted into. And I'm not saying from a human perspective or from a human choices, of course, we would never choose some of the horrors that we live through, but from the perspective of the soul, when I ask about it, people come in with a list of questions and they want to know, like, why did I have such a shitty upbringing with these parents that are total narcissists, and all kinds of abuses happening. And then we get to the higher self, and it might say stuff like, she's a light worker, and she hasn't done a lot of lives on the planet. She wanted to be relatable, and so to have the experiences that a lot of humans have, but also to learn how to transform through them or to heal through them, gives her the wisdom that can be medicine to others going through similar experiences. Or sometimes, I run into angels that are on the other side, and they would say stuff like, yeah, we're her guardian angels, and we warned her not to pile her plate too high. She thought she was going to like really check a lot of issues off this time around, but we warned her, don't do it. It's going to be a difficult experience. But when we're on the other side, we seem to forget like what like daily earth life is like. It seems, that we look at it from like a remote perspective, and from the perspective of the soul or the higher self, human life seems to go really quickly. It's like a 2-minute experience to go through. You just pop in and pop back out. So it doesn't have the same weight as when we're in it. And so it might be easy to think, oh, I'm just going to do this. I'll just be back here in a
Yeah.
jiffy. And, I'm just going to do all these things because that will really, put the shine on my soul, like that will really expand my soul, my knowledge, my wisdom. So I'm going to go in and do all that stuff. And, the stuff being like shitty experiences.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, yeah, I could see how that would work, how that would make someone feel like um needing that. What am I saying here? Confirmation of what's going on with their life with all
Yes.
of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oftentimes they come to see me at a time when they've had an awakening of some sort. And so they want to figure out like, oh my God, my life has changed. I'm no longer a corporate lawyer, but now I just want to be with the trees and nature, and I want to do something else. That's you.
I'm right there. I
Yeah.
just this past weekend I went through another change. I I have another direction that I'm looking at going, and like you're saying, it's more into the nature side of things. I'm trying to get out of the corporate world so that I can do my own business.
Good for you.
And this weekend I had that nudge. I had a beautiful lady give me that nudge, and now I have a whole nother world I'm going to invest in.
Congratulations. So this is what I see a lot, this kind of journey. And oftentimes the higher self then says, if they've had a difficult life, the struggles are now over. She's kind of had that part of her education. And so now it's more about connecting to the self and healing. And this is always done like in very gentle ways. And people being told to spend time in nature, to find a community, a tribe of people that really see them for who they are. Um, to do things that are joyful. Joy is the easiest way that I know of to connect to your inner self, to self express, be it in singing, dancing, painting, creating things, connecting with animals. They're all very feeling based, gentle, fun things to do to really spend time with yourself. Meditation, of course, also. Yeah, to really give yourself a place of like solitude where you can start to feel and hear yourself again. That's the way back in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where I'm heading. I got to get back into that, being able to hear myself, meditate more deeply. I mean, I meditate, but I don't feel like it's really deep. It's just kind of going through the motions, I feel like right now. So
Yeah.
it's time to get into the deep meditations and really start opening up my skills and letting it happen.
Nice. Good for
Yeah,
you. Yeah.
I'm excited.
You- I mean, from my perspective, you're right on track then, doing these things. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty awesome. It's pretty awesome. And I'm actually going into opening up a herb garden in my backyard.
oh, fantastic. Oh, nice.
Yes. So we're redoing our backyard. I'll start with that. So we're redoing our backyard, and we should have put grass in a few weeks ago, but some stuff has been happening, so we haven't been able to do it. Which now I know there was a reason for that because of this past weekend. Part of that area where we was putting grass in is now turning into my herb garden.
Oh, I'm so happy for you. I mean, that's
So
growing stuff is so beautiful and joyful. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I planted the garden. So now we've got the garden. And I found out even the some of the stuff we put in the garden are herbs. I'm like, really? I didn't know a pepper was an herb.
Really?
Yeah,
Like bell pepper.
a bell pepper. From
Oh,
what I'm understanding, a bell pepper is an herb. So I gotta find out more about that. I
oh,
know. I know.
I
So
have some
lots
bell
of
pepper in
things I
my
gotta
garden.
learn.
That's a
Yeah.
nice journey. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, so it's like the changes, like you're saying, is just I just went through one and it lifts you up so much.
Exactly, right? Yeah. It's like
Yeah.
the base lowers. It's more about connection than doing things. And, feeling, I mean, to me, it feels really good to just have a small backyard as well, to just sit outside and to see the sun light on the leaves of the trees and to feel the breeze, to garden, to do simple things that are just slow paced. The moments that you can really sort of connect to those are beautiful to me.
Mhm. Yeah. I'm really excited for it.
And so
Yeah.
this is on a larger scale, this seems to be happening that more and more people are coming to the realization that the fast-paced lives that they've been in, that they're not good for them because their bodies start to complain. Mental issues or emotional issues might surface, and then they find they're prompted or forced to slow down and to reconnect with themselves through these different practices that we've been talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I've got that lesson done this weekend, so
nice.
feels good. Feels really nice. Yeah.
Like in session,
Wow.
I feel like a lot of the people that have done this kind of stuff before, like a more connected life, they're being sort of reawakened. Like I love my sessions where we're bringing back the witches, the wise women that knew about healing and that were very connected to earth energies and knew how to work with the energy of the earth and creating magical experiences, that were like killed by the religious sort of patriarchal structures that we've been in for quite a while. But now they're coming back, like people go into past lives where those things happened, and they might find out why in this current lifetime they feel kind of fearful of being heard or seen in their healing capacity because they were like persecuted for it. Um,
Right.
and we're bringing back, or we're bringing in, the star seeds as well. So the souls that have lived in different galaxies, different planets, different vibrational planes that are here now to anchor these higher frequencies to sort of pull up the harmonics of human consciousness on the planet. The Earth is already going through her own ascension. She is a living being, and humanity is trying to like match her or catch up. And a lot of the galactic races that have been involved with the Earth history for a long time, they're here now, putting their people back on the ground. So to elevate consciousness. And so a lot of my clients, I mean, it's a whole different, it's kind of a concept to unpack as well, being a starseed. Like, I believe that we've all lived in different places, but that not everybody alive on the planet right now consciously brings in these experiences from other galaxies or other planets. It's the people that are here to be light workers or to elevate consciousness. And part of doing that is bringing in like a conscious or a very tangible remembrance of different places. It's the people that are just naturally connected more to nature, or they have like gifts or capacities, psychic capacities, and they know that life can be done in a way more compassionate and loving way. And they might have felt like they didn't belong or didn't fit in. So when they come in for a session, it's really wonderful. Like, I think I've identified like different sort of generations. Like, I'm from 1971, and people that come into my office, I kind of do like a psychic check-in with them. Like, I try to feel out, like, I wonder what I'm getting today. Like, I place kind of bets with myself. I think this is more of a Pleiadian or an Andromedan or a Nectarian. And usually I'm good with the Pleiadians and the Andromedans. Like, I have a knack for recognizing them. And then they might go into a life where they're explaining, I'm with my people on a different planet. And then I really want to go to Earth because they need help. And I'm going to do this by, being born into a human body and have this lifetime and elevate consciousness on the planet. So when I love doing this work so much, like, especially when, my client goes to a time when she's on the spaceship or something. And I ask her to like talk to whomever is in charge. I remember talking to one of these aliens. I forgot where they were from. But they were very much involved with helping Earth and humanity. And I asked, like, what are the different ways that you do this? And this particular group of aliens said, well, we go and be in orbit to observe, to study, and to learn. Then we beam love at the planet or humanity, and the people that are susceptible will take this in. They also try to inspire people that are open to this, like to give them thoughts and feelings to inspire them, but also to put their people on the ground, to have human lifetimes, to anchor the frequencies in that way, and to interact with other people and to try and move things in those ways. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. That's really cool. So do you feel like you are a half and half or a hybrid?
Yeah, I
You
mean,
feel like
certainly,
you are?
yes. Yeah, I've had sessions where, session done to me where I remember like a Pleiadian aspect or a Syrian aspect. I feel like there's more going on, but those are the parts that I have like recovered. And so, yeah, I feel like when I first saw Barbara Marciniak's work about the Pleiadian channeling, it really resonated with me. I felt very connected to it. But I also have a connection to like Orion's belt in the sky. I'm always, when I look in the sky, the night sky, and I see Orion, then I feel kind of like, oh, thank God, it's still there. It's kind of like a weird. So I don't know what that is. Yeah,
So
and this
you're
is
scared that your planet's gonna leave
no, it's more
or
like
something?
I'm here now, but that's really where I'm from or something. Yes. Yeah,
Huh.
even though I no longer feel like like I don't belong here. I really love being on Earth. I think Earth is so beautiful because there's such diversity and such a wide variety of experiences to be had. And I think nature here is just I mean, just so stunning. Like, I go into nature all the time and I find all like the magical spots to just be and swim in the creek and, you know, talk to the animals and the trees. It's, I mean, I mean, for a while, you know, I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go be in and out. I don't like being here, but now that I've found more of my own sense of self, and you know, I experience life as more for me than sort of being done to me, and I have more like a access to making choices that are more self-honoring. I choose loving experiences. I choose joyful experiences. I choose slow-paced experience. I don't want to like, you know, kind of like whip myself into shape like a jockey on a racehorse to like, you know, do all the to-dos or to like be productive or, you know, beyond what my sensitive system um, wants to do, you know? Yeah. So I forgot where I was going with this. I don't remember. Yeah.
So, with you being a nature kind of person, your element is earth. So, have you connected with any of the creatures of earth, like a fairy or Sasquatch or anybody like that?
I wish. I haven't had that
Yeah.
experience. No. I mean, I've connected to those in sessions, people going into lifetime as fairies or Sasquatches even. But yeah, I'm always on the lookout. I'm always talking to the elementals, talking to the trees, and I say, hey, I wouldn't mind if you show yourself now. Even if you look freaky, I will not be afraid. So, but I haven't, you know, I mean, I've connected to other beings in meditation, but it's kind of like in your mind's eye kind of thing. I would
Yeah.
love I would love for it to be in, you know, like you actually see a being, you know, like
Yeah.
a
I
critter.
haven't
You have?
I haven't seen a fairy, but my husband and I have heard a fairy.
Really?
Yes, we were on a walk cleaning because that's what we do. And we got this to this one corner and I heard this voice from my like a pocket from my side pocket on my pants, but I didn't have pockets on. And I hear this hello,
Oh,
and I'm like, I turn around, I see nothing around me. And oddly enough, as a human being, when you hear someone say hello, you just automatically turn around and say hello
yeah.
back. Hi, how are you? Da da da. No, I turned to my husband and I'm like, did you hear that? And he turns and looks at me and says, I thought you said that.
Wow.
And he's looking all over. There's nobody around, no cars, no nothing around. And so that was really exciting because he heard it because he's on the fence. So he hears it and he's like, no, I thought you said that. I go, so you heard it. And he goes, plain as day.
Wow, yes. That's amazing. I
Yeah.
yeah,
So,
I'm always like wanting to see them have a more tangible experience. I had my
mhm,
first I mean I meet clients that have similar experiences. Like once somebody showed me a picture of a fairy. She lives in the middle of the city, but the fairies are in her backyard. She's very connected to them. And she showed me like this light being with like wings, like fluttery. I mean, it
mhm,
was kind of clear in the picture. And then she sees them all the time. Like if only I could see that, I would
wow.
love that. So I had my
Yeah.
first UFO experience after so many of my friends see them all the time, like hovering above a busy intersection or a whole fleet of them here in Los Angeles. I was like, why am I not seeing them? So I was on the
Yeah.
freeway like a year and a half ago and talking on the phone. And then I'm always looking up at the sky, like, please show yourself. And
Yeah.
I see this like silver thing hanging overhead. I go like, oh, it must be a plane and a helicopter, as you know, seen so many other times. And I go like, no, that's not what it is. And then I thought maybe it's one of those like those round balls that they put on like power lines
Okay.
for planes
Yeah.
or something. But there were no power lines. And then I realized I was looking at this silver ball that was just hovering and talked to my friend, oh my God, I think I'm looking at a UFO or a UAP, whatever they're called now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah, it was super exciting. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I had a experience going to work one morning. It was still kind of dark out, and probably like 10, maybe 15 miles away from me, I saw a light in the sky
Wow.
that flashed. It was like flash, 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 flash 5 times across the sky.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, that was kind of weird. But the more
Wow.
I thought about it, it's like that had to have been a UFO.
Yes.
It was heading west towards the mountains, and we have an airport nearby. And I'm like watching the airport, the lights that spin. No, it couldn't have been that because it was that would have been a solid light. Plus, that one went west to east. This light went east to west.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's like, and it was too high above to be, and at the distance, you wouldn't see a street light or anything like
Of
that. So
course.
it would be too bright for that. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just like, no, no.
It's
And I have
exciting.
never seen it before or after that I
Yeah.
know of, recall.
Yeah. I mean, so many people that are, coming to seek like help that have memories of being aboard spaceships or interacting with aliens. Sometimes really surprising things happen where I've posted a session, the client allowed me to post, where as a little kid, she would just get up out of her bed at night, walk out the front door, go into a little park in a neighborhood, and like a spaceship would be waiting. She would go in and then meet her like alien mom or
Oh,
grandmother.
wow.
Yeah. And she
Wow.
would like, hang out with her and learn all these things. It was really beautiful. She was here to, she was not a cannabis smoker, but she was told that she's here to work with cannabis because cannabis is like a terraforming plant. It's really, she was here to cultivate it because the knowledge, it would be taken to other planets, for it to be modified to grow on other planets. And it's not to like get high off of, but it's a really good soil converter,
Wow.
to create life, to convert the soil to be fertile for other species. It's a really special plant. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Wow.
And then she
Yeah.
also was an alien on a different ship, where I call it the cosmic gardener. She was in charge of like, um,
How
harvesting
beautiful.
plants from one planet and then modifying them so they could be in the physical condition, thrive in the physical conditions of another planet. Isn't it amazing? Yeah.
That is really special.
Yeah.
Really. I mean, yeah, that's
Even
an
people like
amazing story.
with like scary experiences, they are traumatized or they have PTSD from being taken against their will and being sort of experimented on. Is that what it feels like? I remember sessions with people that, it would come up in a session. They would find themselves on like the metal slab on a spaceship, beings around, and then stuff being done to them. Um, I remember this particular woman. She saw these like squatty like little gray beings, and I had her try and talk to them, um, to see what was going on. But they turned out to be more like a drone type being. They didn't have a lot of personality, but they were just like, I mean, not quite robotic, but they had life force, but they were kind of like, just task oriented. So
Hmm.
I had to look around, and it was like this taller being was there that was female. And it said that, my client had contracted to work with them, and she had, done this prior to coming into this lifetime. They had agreed that she would go into this lifetime and would help them with, DNA material, because this species was actually not alien, but was a future iteration of humanity. It was a different humanity that had gone down a different timeline, where the upheavals that we're experiencing now, they decided that it was all due to our emotions being so strong. So they kind of like bred out the ability to feel. And with that went the ability to procreate. And so they resorted to cloning, and then they had to move to a different planet because Earth had like perished or something. And but they killed off their new planet as well, and so they lived underground or in spaceships, and they were allowed by the Galactic Federation to go back in time and contract with souls that were going to be incarnate in a human body and to create hybrids. So to give their species a chance to exist. Oh, I forgot to tell you this, because the ability to clone no longer worked. They were dead ending their evolution, and so they needed to create a different being that had the ability to feel, but also had the high mental capacity. And it explained that there were like 4 generations, and one of them was the Ssani. And I don't know if you know about Bashar, but he's a channeler,
Yeah.
and
Hmm.
found out that he channels. I think Bashar is an Ssani, or he channeled about it. Which is always great when you find like information that kind of validates, what you've explored in sessions, and that my client does. So she had contracted to be of service to these beings, um, and because they're so like non-feeling, it can be really like scary, and they don't really know about the human feeling experience and emotional pain. It's like
Yeah.
they kind of learn to stay going like there, don't be scared, but they're still kind of freakishly like void of any feelings. It's not like they
Right.
really hold a loving, compassionate space. So
Yeah.
yeah,
As a human, that is, to us, it's just not right. It's
no,
we need that emotion of some sort. To be
yes,
blank faced is just, it messes with us for sure.
yeah, they have no bedside
Definitely.
manner at all. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well, it has been a great pleasure having you with us today. Absolutely.
It was
I can go
lovely.
on
Like,
more and more with you.
oh, I love talking about this. This is like,
Yeah.
I mean, this is my life. It's my favorite thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's what we all do, isn't it? This is what we're here for, you
Yes.
know? It's
Yeah.
it's really awesome. Well, thank you so, so much for being here. I completely enjoyed your time. I was just so intrigued to hear so many of your stories.
Thank you. It was lovely connecting with you, and thank you for giving me a platform to talk
Oh,
about all this weird stuff. I
absolutely. You're welcome back anytime. I mean,
would love to.
we have more stuff to talk about. I know we do.
Yes. Maybe we can do like more specific subjects, go down a rabbit hole, like something specific. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll set that up. Well,
Oh,
if
nice. Oh,
anyone, what was that?
it was lovely talking to you. So,
Oh, it was great having you on the show. I really appreciate you. It's been awesome. Been awesome. Anybody else out there that has any stories you would like to share, email me at lighttalk423 at gmail.com. And while you're at it, click on the like, share, and subscribe buttons and check out the website at www.lighttalkwithdana.com. And we will see everybody later. Bye.
bye.